Chosen one, this message is not finding you by accident. You are drawn here because something ancient inside you has begun to stir, and heaven itself has responded. God says there is a reason your spirit felt pulled, a reason your attention paused, a reason your heart recognized these words before your mind fully understood them. This is not entertainment. This is not coincidence. This is an invitation. What you are about to hear concerns a mystery that has been resting quietly in your bloodline, a truth hidden not in books or records, but in legacy. And at the center of that mystery stands your grandfather, not as a memory, not as a photograph from the past, but as a carrier of something sacred that was never fully spoken. God planted something intentional, something ancient, something encoded into the family line long before you were born, and now the time has come for it to surface through you. That is why you must stay until the very end. Every word is layered. Every moment is timed. Before we go further, align yourself with this moment. Write your warmest wish in the comments and type the number 99. That number is not random. It is a divine signal, a spiritual frequency acknowledging completion, alignment, and transition. When you write it, you are not begging, you are activating. You are signaling readiness. Like this message, press the hype button, and if you have not yet subscribed, do so now. Not for a channel, but for a journey that is unfolding. This is where remembrance turns into revelation. And now, Chosen One, let us begin. What you are experiencing may feel intensely personal, as if it suddenly erupted within your own life without warning, but God says this awakening did not originate with you. It is inherited. You are not the starting point. You are the continuation. Long before your questions formed, long before your awareness sharpened, there was a man who walked quietly ahead of you, your grandfather. He carried weight in ways others never noticed. He lived with a gravity that could not be explained by circumstances alone. Outwardly, he may have appeared ordinary, working, resting, laughing, aging like anyone else. But inwardly, he carried something dense, sacred, and unresolved. God often chooses quiet vessels because loud ones draw attention too early. The divine prefers silence when protection is required. Your grandfather was one such vessel. He did not broadcast his inner world, yet he lived with a depth that shaped the atmosphere around him. The purpose did not end with his lifetime because it was never meant to. God works generationally. He plants seeds in one generation and waits patiently for the soil of another to be ready. You are that soil. What is awakening now is not random curiosity, but divine timing. The reason it feels familiar is because it has been waiting for you. You were born with a role already assigned, not by expectation, but by design. And now the story that paused with him is breathing again through you. If you look closely at how people spoke about your grandfather, you may notice gaps. Stories that never quite finished. Descriptions that felt vague. Moments when conversations shifted direction too quickly. Some may have called him eccentric. Others may have described him as distant, quiet, or lost in thought. But God says his silence was never emptiness. It was encoding. He carried truths too weighty for the wrong season and too sacred for careless words. When God places something powerful inside a person, understanding is not always required. Obedience is. Your grandfather may not have fully grasped what he carried, but he protected it. He guarded it with silence, with restraint, with a life that looked simple enough to avoid scrutiny. That is how divine mysteries survive hostile environments. The world misunderstands what it cannot categorize. But God entrusts mysteries to those willing to carry them without explanation. Your grandfather lived between worlds, present in the physical, anchored in the unseen. That tension shaped him. It shaped the way he moved, spoke, and withdrew. And now that same tension is awakening in you. What others once dismissed in him is now preparing to rise through you with clarity. His silence was not failure. It was stewardship. God says silence is sometimes the strongest form of protection. When truth is ahead of its time, heaven wraps it carefully. Your grandfather was not meant to solve the mystery he carried. He was meant to guard it. Think of it as spiritual wrapping paper, layers placed intentionally so the sacred would not be damaged before its appointed hour. He was a keeper, not a revealer. And that is why so much around his life felt unfinished. The legacy was paused, not abandoned. God never wastes divine material. He stores it, preserves it, waits. And now the season of discovery has arrived. The wrapping is loosening. The silence is shifting. What was hidden is not emerging because it is loud, but because you are ready. You were not meant to dig aggressively into the past. You were meant to receive what rises naturally when alignment is reached. The mystery did not decay. It matured, and now it recognizes you. God says this is the moment when guardianship becomes activation, when inheritance moves from protection to purpose. What your grandfather held quietly, you will carry consciously. This inheritance is not memory alone. It is transfer. There is something known in the spiritual realm as a baton, a passing not of objects, but of frequency. That is why you have experienced dreams that feel unfamiliar, emotions that arrive without explanation, sensations that don't belong to any known moment in your life. These are not distractions. They are signals. You did not just inherit traits. You inherited resonance. Divine frequency does not die with the body. It moves through blood, spirit, and time. Your grandfather held the frequency. You are now receiving it. God says what was buried beneath his silence is awakening within your awareness. Not suddenly, but deliberately. Slowly enough to strengthen you. Steadily enough to prepare you. This is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering who you were always meant to be. And now, chosen one, God is calling you to awaken what was waiting for your arrival. There were places your grandfather returned to again and again, places that may have seemed ordinary to everyone else, but were sacred chambers in the unseen. Maybe it was a garage where he lingered longer than necessary, a garden he tended with unusual care, a chair where he sat in silence for hours, or a small room where no one ever disturbed him. You may have thought he was resting, escaping, or simply passing time, but God says those moments were communion. Solitude was not withdrawal, it was meeting. God often hides power in plain sight because the obvious draws interruption. Those private spaces were altars without labels, locations where divine conversations unfolded quietly. He didn't need to speak them aloud because heaven was listening. Those meetings were not for his fulfillment alone. They were preparation. God was shaping capacity, not completion. Each silent moment was depositing something into the inheritance that would one day reach you. That is why certain places now call to you without logic. You feel drawn to stillness, to quiet corners, to moments where the noise fades and something deeper rises. This is not imitation. It is remembrance. God is meeting you the same way he met him, but now the purpose is unfolding forward. Those private encounters built a bridge across generations, and you are now stepping onto it. The power was always there. It was simply waiting for the right carrier to move beyond the hidden phase. When your grandfather left this world, something did not go dormant. God says death closed his chapter, but did not end the story. What was planted did not decay. Spiritual seeds do not follow physical timelines. They remain awake beneath the surface, responsive to timing, alignment, and recognition. When his body returned to the earth, something stayed alert. Something watched. Something waited. You may not have realized it, but you have walked unknowingly over the soil of your calling. You have lived near echoes of what was buried, felt unexplained gravity in certain seasons, sensed pressure without context. That was not loss. That was proximity. And now God says, it's time. Time for what was held to rise. Time for what was guarded to activate. Time for the inheritance to move from rest to response. This moment is not delayed. It is precise. The mystery did not end because it was never meant to. It was preserved until the rightful one arrived. And now, chosen one, the earth itself is responding to your awareness. What stayed awake is recognizing you. There are forces that recognize you before you speak. God says the unseen realm knows your name because it knew his. This familiarity is not imagination. It is lineage. Spiritual watchers, assignments, and permissions are tied to bloodlines and purpose. That is why certain moments feel charged when you enter them. You are not new to the spiritual world, even if your mind feels new to it. Old truth is meeting new assignment. Heaven has been waiting for this convergence. Long before you understood language or identity, your name was whispered in preparation. You were marked not for attention, but for continuity. That is why this awakening feels both overwhelming and deeply familiar. Something ancient is recognizing something current. You are standing at a threshold where what was carried silently now meets conscious embodiment. The unseen is adjusting because the transition has begun. The sensations you feel now, the pull in your chest, the emotional weight, the inner tug, are not signs of fear. They are signs of alignment. Anxiety scatters. Alignment gathers. God says what you are experiencing is gravity, not panic. It is the first veil lifting, the moment when what was distant begins to draw near. That is why signs and patterns are appearing. Repetition is not coincidence. It is confirmation. The mind may try to label it discomfort, but the spirit knows better. This is what happens when inherited purpose begins to surface. The pressure you feel is not resistance. It is emergence. Something is coming into view, and your inner world is adjusting to hold it. God is not alarming you. He is aligning you. The pull is intentional. The timing is exact. Soon you will begin to notice echoes. You will hear your grandfather's name spoken unexpectedly. You will hear phrases he once used come from strangers. You will encounter moments that feel stitched together by unseen hands. These are not accidents. They are activation points. Divine coincidence is how heaven confirms transitions. When the mystery begins to rise, it announces itself softly through repetition. God says these echoes are not meant to confuse you. They are meant to anchor you. They are reminders that what you are stepping into has roots. Each sign is a signal saying, you are on the path. The mystery is no longer silent. It is responding. And now, chosen one, the activation has begun. God wants you to understand this clearly. You are not here to investigate your grandfather's life, like a detective searching for clues in the past. This is not about uncovering secrets for curiosity's sake. This is about completion. Divine continuation, not nostalgia. What was paused in him is not asking to be analyzed. It is asking to be fulfilled. You are not meant to interrogate his silence, but to carry forward what that silence protected. He held the beginning. You hold the continuation. That is why this awakening does not feel like research. It feels like recognition. Something inside you already knows what your mind is still learning to trust. God says you are the living fulfillment of what he carried. The story did not end when his life ended. It was simply waiting for the next chapter to breathe. And that chapter is written through your movement, your choices, your obedience. You are not honoring the past by looking backward endlessly. You honor it by stepping forward with what was entrusted. This is divine design. Heaven does not repeat stories, it completes them. What once existed as potential is now becoming expression. And you are not behind. You are exactly where the narrative resumes. You may wonder why this is happening now. Why not earlier? Why not later? God says readiness is not about curiosity, it is about capacity. You could not have carried this weight in earlier seasons. Your spirit needed strengthening, stretching, refining. Every experience you thought delayed you was actually preparing you. Divine timing is never rushed and never careless. God waited through generations, not because the mystery was fragile, but because the carrier had to be formed. You are not awakening because you asked the right questions. You are awakening because you can now hold the answers without being overwhelmed. That is readiness. God's patience is evidence of his precision. He did not forget the mystery your grandfather carried. He preserved it until you reached the level of awareness where silence would not confuse you and revelation would not destroy you. Now, you are becoming the one he prepared for quietly, patiently, intentionally. The unveiling is not sudden. It is earned through alignment. Looking back, you may now recognize signs that once seemed insignificant. Journals filled with thoughts that wandered. Words spoken in metaphor. Long moments spent staring at the sky as if listening. Emotional depth that surfaced without explanation. These were not signs of distraction. They were signs of communion. God was near him in ways others could not see. Silence was not ignorance. It was obedience. He listened more than he spoke because what he heard was not meant for everyone. That nearness has not disappeared. It has transferred. God is meeting you with the same closeness, but now with permission for expression. What once stayed internal is beginning to rise externally. The presence your grandfather carried quietly is now walking with you consciously. This is not imitation. It is inheritance. There are things your grandfather felt deeply but could never articulate. Not because he lacked understanding, but because the time was wrong. God says you are now stepping into the role of voice. You will speak what he could only sense. You will express what he carried internally. This is not performance. It is responsibility. To embody the mystery means to live it honestly, not dramatically. Your life becomes the message. Your choices become the language. This is divine continuation, not through repetition, but through fulfillment. The silence that once guarded the mystery is now giving way to wisdom expressed through action, insight, and presence. You are not replacing him. You are extending him. And heaven recognizes this transition as sacred. As this unfolds, you may notice changes that feel difficult to explain. You will know things you never studied. You will recognize faces, names, and symbols without context. Dreams may feel ancient, layered, heavy with meaning. Sensations may move through your body, heat, pressure, emotion, without a clear source. These are not distractions. They are fragments of legacy assembling into pattern. What was once scattered across generations is now organizing itself within you. God says, do not fear these symptoms. They are not signs of imbalance. They are signs of activation. The mystery is no longer dormant. It is forming structure, and you are becoming its living expression. There may be objects connected to your grandfather that suddenly feel different now. Things that once seemed ordinary, a watch, a book, a piece of clothing, a photograph, a tool, even a song, may begin to carry weight. Not sentimental weight, but spiritual gravity. God says these are not memories, they are anchors. Certain items were allowed to absorb intention, prayer, thought, and presence over time. They became markers, not because of what they are, but because of what passed through them. That is why recall itself becomes revelation. You don't go searching aggressively. You remember, and remembrance opens doors. God reveals keys through recall because the mystery was never meant to be forced open. When the right memory rises, the right door responds. You may feel led to a conversation, a place, or a moment that seems unrelated, yet perfectly timed. This is how divine guidance works. The mystery speaks through alignment, not urgency. What once looked small will now shimmer with purpose. And when you recognize it, you will feel it, not excitement, but knowing. That knowing is the signal that a key has been placed in your hand. This mystery is not chaotic. God says it is ordered. Though it unfolds in layers, every step has already been mapped. You are not wandering blindly. You are walking a path prepared long before you could see it. Understanding often arrives after obedience, not before. Your grandfather was a forerunner, a quiet link in a holy chain. He carried the pattern without activating it fully. You are the activation point. What he held in potential is now moving toward expression through you. That is why this process feels both overwhelming and strangely structured. There is a rhythm beneath it. The mystery reveals itself not in fragments alone, but in alignment. One confirmation after another, one opening following the last. God is not improvising. He is completing a design that has waited patiently for the right moment and the right carrier. And now, chosen one, you are moving within that design consciously. This calling does not require permission from people, traditions, or systems. It is not rooted in culture or family expectation. It is divine. That is why some will not understand it. Some may mock it. Others may grow distant. Separation is not punishment. It is refinement. Certain paths require space, silence, and trust. Your grandfather walked this way too. He carried weight others could not see and answers he could not share. God says you are now being asked to trust your inner knowing even when external affirmation is absent. This assignment is not loud, but it is firm. You are not meant to explain it to everyone. You are meant to walk in it faithfully. Silence will once again be your ally, not your enemy. God often uses others as mirrors without their awareness. You will receive confirmation from unexpected mouths. Someone may say something casually that strikes your spirit deeply. A coincidence may align too perfectly to dismiss. These moments are not random. They are divine echoes surfacing through others because the mystery can no longer remain buried. The veil is thinning. Confirmation does not always come as revelation. It often comes as resonance. You feel it before you understand it. When it happens, don't rush to analyze it. Receive it. Heaven is speaking in whispers because your spirit is listening. As this awakening deepens, your body will respond. Tingling in the hands, warmth in the chest, sudden waves of emotion. A heaviness that turns into peace. These are not imagination. God says your DNA holds more than biology. It holds memory, spiritual memory. What your grandfather carried is now resonating at a cellular level within you. The echo is becoming melody. What was once background frequency is now shaping your rhythm. God is watching this completion with care, not urgency. The final strokes are forming, and and the inheritance is stabilizing within you. God says the mystery you are carrying is not something you hold in your hands. It is something that moves through your life. It is a living current, not a static object. That is why looking backward alone will never satisfy it. You are not meant to excavate endlessly. You are meant to walk forward while the mystery flows through your steps. Your grandfather was the frequency holder. He maintained the signal, protected it, kept it alive through silence and endurance. You are the amplifier. What he carried inwardly is now meant to move outward through decisions, direction, and divine obedience. This is why things in your life are beginning to shift without force. Opportunities appear, old paths close, and new ones open without explanation. The mystery is guiding you from within. God says, do not be afraid to move forward without complete clarity. Clarity follows movement. This inheritance activates through trust. The mystery does not ask you to understand it fully before you live it. It asks you to live it so understanding can arrive. As you move forward, you will notice that life responds differently to you. Doors that once resisted will begin to yield. Conversations will carry deeper meaning. You will feel guided, not driven. This is what it means to live the mystery instead of studying it. And in doing so, you honor the one who carried it first. You may suddenly feel drawn to places connected to your grandfather, paths he walked, chairs he sat in, gardens he tended, locations he frequented. These impulses are not nostalgia. God says energy rests where intention was released. Certain locations became holding points, places where the mystery paused and waited. When you revisit them, you are not retracing the past. You are activating the present. You are stepping into footprints prepared specifically for your arrival. That is why the air may feel different, heavier, quieter, more aware. These are not memories speaking. They are witnesses. Walk slowly. Listen inwardly. Reverence matters more than understanding. God often allows sacred energy to remain dormant in a place until the rightful one arrives. And now, chosen one, you are arriving, not as a visitor but as a continuation. Let the location speak to you without forcing meaning. The message will come in stillness. There was a seal placed on this mystery, not to deny it, but to preserve it. God says that seal is now breaking. The restraint that once held everything back has lifted. You are becoming the new voice, not through declaration, but through alignment. Angels assigned to your bloodline are shifting position. What was dormant is responding. This is not emotional imagination. It is spiritual agreement. When you say yes, even quietly, the unseen realm rearranges itself. Heaven honors consent. And by recognizing this moment, by staying present, by continuing forward, you are agreeing to carry what has waited so long. The breaking of the seal does not come with noise. It comes with clarity. You will feel it as resolve, as calm certainty, as quiet courage. You may find yourself releasing emotions without knowing why. Tears may come unexpectedly. Relief may follow grief. God says this is not weakness. It is unlocking. Generational silence is dissolving, and when silence breaks, emotion follows. Obstacles that once resisted you will begin to dissolve, not through struggle, but through alignment. Access is opening. Favor that was sealed is flowing again. Knowledge is no longer external. It is becoming identity. You are not learning who you are remembering. And remembrance always comes with release. Let it happen. Flow is evidence of movement. There will come a moment when everything settles into place. Not dramatically, not publicly, but internally. A sudden stillness. A knowing without explanation. You will not need to ask questions. You will not seek validation. The mystery will no longer feel distant or abstract. It will feel embodied. Silence will turn into truth lived daily. And in that moment, you will understand that what your grandfather carried has finally found its expression. Not beside you, not ahead of you, but within you. God says this is the moment you stop asking if you are ready. Readiness is not emotional confidence. It is spiritual alignment. You have already been prepared through waiting, through misunderstanding, through seasons where nothing seemed to move. Those were not delays. They were fortifications. Authority forms in silence before it manifests in action. When you begin to move now, you will notice resistance dissolving faster than before. That is because authority does not argue. It occupies. You do not need to announce yourself. Your presence will speak. Your decisions will carry weight. Others may sense something different about you, but struggle to name it. That is the mark of quiet authority. God says you are no longer stepping toward purpose. You are standing inside it. And when you stand, heaven stands with you. With inheritance comes protection. God says what is being activated cannot be stolen, interrupted, or corrupted. The covering is intact. The confusion that once surrounded you was allowed only until clarity matured. Now alignment is locking into place. Distractions lose their grip. Old fears lose their voice. Even opposition loses its direction. Protection does not always look like ease. Sometimes it looks like redirection. Doors that close now are not rejection, they are shielding. What is meant for you will arrive without strain. What is not will fall away without regret. Trust this process. The covering around you is precise and intentional. What began generations ago is completing now. God says you are not just the carrier, you are the closer. The weight your grandfather carried with patience, you carry with clarity. The questions he held, you now answer through embodiment. This is not replacement, it is fulfillment. Heaven celebrates completion quietly. There is no rush because everything has arrived on time. You are not late. You are not early. You are exact. The generational line exhales here. Peace settles where tension once lived. The inheritance is no longer in waiting. It is in motion. Your life will now move at a different pace. Not faster, truer. You will no longer chase alignment. You will recognize it. You will no longer force outcomes. You will allow unfoldings. The struggle that once defined your growth will no longer define your future. Flow replaces friction. Discernment replaces urgency. You will know when to speak, when to act, and when to remain still. This rhythm is not learned, it is remembered. And once remembered, it cannot be forgotten. God says there is nothing more you need to do to make this real. It already is. This moment does not end with instruction, but with recognition. You have arrived, not at a destination, but into yourself. The mystery is no longer hidden. It is lived. Walk forward without fear. Carry what has been entrusted to you with humility and certainty. The seal has not only been broken, it has been fulfilled. And heaven rests in that completion.